And today we want to bring back some of the glory days of these frame-by-frame animation technique with Plupi Animation founder and director Yohannan Reynard Misae, or better known as Ray, as well as Plupi head animator Litek Kosman, who actually made 7 Time Well Spent. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, guys.
Welcome.
Morning.
Thank you for dropping by the studio today, by the way.
Yeah, no problem. It's
exciting.
a pleasure.
Right, so explain to us more. What a lot of people are familiar with these days are the 3D animation that...
Like CGI.
Like CGI, the Pixar stuff. But of course, this is a more classic animation that we're familiar with, frame by frame. Can you explain a little bit behind the process of frame by frame animation?
So frame-by-frame animation, in a nutshell, is where you have to draw every single frame or every single image.
Wow.
And then the rule of thumb is 24 frames equals 1 second.
Per second.
Or some people might already know as 24 FPS.
Right.
So if you draw on one, meaning you draw every single image based on that 24 frame per second rule, you have to draw 24 individual images, but sequentially, eventually making that illusion of motion.
Movement.
And 24 only creates 1 second of footage.
Right.
Now, you could imagine if you had to make 1 minute.
Right.
And so that's gonna be like, if I'm doing the math correctly, like 1,440 frames
Wow.
for 1 minute.
Okay.
And now picture what Snow White was. It was like a 2-hour movie?
An hour and a half or 2 hours. Yeah.
Pretty long movies.
So it's pretty crazy if you think about it. It's like you had a dedicated team, like maybe 50, hundreds of
Right.
people, like doing overtime, everything like in their studios, and all the directors are like, come on guys, you get this done. And then,
Right.
Yeah.
and then back in the day, they didn't even have scanners. So they would have like this rig where it had a DSLR camera, or I don't know, like an analog camera back in the day, I would say.
And they would have to put one sheet at a time.
Exactly. And then they would have to take a picture of those individual frames based on a set, like dimension, so it would fit into the screen.
Sure. So they would, from what I understand, they would also have to break this down into scenes. Like one team will work on one scene just to get those sequences in order.
Yeah.
And so what you're drawing as animators is basically the outline and the movement. The coloring, that all comes later.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
How does that work?
that's called keyframing.
Okay.
And so as the head animator for him, he creates like all the important frames, or also known as keyframes.
Right.
So like, would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah, example like this, you go punch, you have to make like here and here.
Right.
Right.
Like so, I am a head animator, gonna draw this keyframe and keyframe to make, and then the others animators will draw the in between
All
to
the
make it a lot
frames in
smoother.
between
Yes,
to see the movement.
to see the movement. So you see
To get
it, boom, like
Okay.
fast like it.
Yeah.
You have to know about the moment.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow, that is...
That's a lot. It takes a village.
yeah.
Quite literally.
Yeah.
And now we heard that frame by frame animation takes a lot of time.
Well,
For that
seems like it.
Like a lot of time. For that 6-minute video, how long did that take?
Considering how small our crew is at the moment, it
Yeah.
took us three and a half months, give or take,
3.5 months.
of
Okay.
intense work, just like constantly on a day-to-day basis, like clock in at 9, clock out at 5.
Right.
Okay.
And then, so there's a lot of overtime going on there. And so the team we have are like completely dedicated. It's like, all right, we got to get this done. We have a small fan base like, yo, when's episode 1 coming out? It's like,
Right.
right, guys, we can't let these guys down.
Yeah.
Right. So you have, so basically, before you even get into drawing the actual animation and movement that we're seeing, everything starts off with a storyboard, whether it's a live movie or it's animation. And you happen to have brought some of your storyboard with us. Can you share with us the purpose of a storyboard and what that does for you as a starting point?
So actually, I brought more than just the storyboard. So if you can see over here, is actually some parts.
You brought some of the scenes as well, like this is some of the background. Okay.
So these are some of the concept backgrounds before they were actually like sketched out on a computer and then eventually colored, shaded.
Let's show. So that classroom scene, that would
How
be
was
an
that?
example of how they even came up with the design of that
Wow.
classroom scene itself before you even decide what you're
Yeah.
going to animate inside it.
Yeah, there's also this one.
like a
This one was seen on the TV spot earlier.
Okay, yeah.
We mentioned this camera right here.
Wow.
Yeah.
So guys, I'm kind of curious though, with all the technology that we have now, what makes you guys stay OG in doing all this animation?
Considering all the technological advances
Yeah, there's
that we have
something-
available to you.
A lot of ease, making it
Storyboard?
easier, making it faster.
So one of the things that always bothered me is that like people keep saying how 3D CGI and like it's going to be the next big thing. But
Right.
the thing is, that next big thing is today, and eventually today is going to be the past.
Right.
And so when that happens, eventually everyone with a piece of computer and technology can make anything like unstandardized. And everyone's going to say, hey, this is the next cool thing, but is it really? I don't know. And eventually it becomes an oversaturated media market. And then it eventually will reach that point where like, everything's pretty much the same. Like how, people say, yeah, I'm listening to radio and why do like all the songs sound the same?
Right.
And we don't want that to be the case.
Right.
And so why not we bring back something from the past that not much people are doing anymore and raise that as an awareness thing, you
Right.
know? Because like even today, Japan, their massive anime industry still does it frame by
Yes,
frame.
correct.
And regarding to the technological advancements, that's when they try to crossbreed the two between past and
And
future.
present, future, right. And it's the present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So perhaps I'm going to ask Litek, you're the head animator. This is from me just as a consumer, so to speak, somebody who just
Right.
enjoys animation but don't understand much about it. There's a certain element from 2D or frame-by-frame animation that even 3D with the most advanced technology still cannot emulate. For example,
Yes.
for me, whenever I see like something like Toy Story, the humans still don't exactly look or act like actual people. They still look like dolls in a way.
Yeah.
Whereas 2D animation, you can create any expression you want, and you can exaggerate things any way you want. In fact, you
Right.
can create an expression the way you want it. Can you explain a little bit about what 2D animation or frame-by-frame animation could achieve that even 3D cannot?
Yeah, 2D animation is more advanced in the creativity.
Okay, it allows you to be more creative.
It's more like a big rather than the 3D.
Okay.
So you have to put your emotion and everything like you draw a human.
Right.
So you have to understand human body, human emotion.
Right.
Yes, the anatomy or something, everything about human, and you have to put it into 2D.
Okay.
That 3D doesn't can.
Right. It seems like 3D, you're limited by basically can create a figure, like a doll, and then
Yes.
you can move it, you can animate
Right.
it.
Yeah, just like that.
Right, okay.
Right, right.
Yeah,
There's
interesting to
freedom
know.
and expression.
Some things that you still can't do with
Yeah,
technology.
you see the three front like the 3D maybe like you can like this,
Okay.
but if you see actually movement, it's everything is changed.
Yes.
3D cannot do that.
Right. There's going to be like the changes in your muscular.
Yeah. The
You
little
can draw all
things,
that.
Yes,
that
right.
you can add
yes.
in the details.
amazing.
Now, moving on to your short animation, guys, this one that we have up here. Can you tell us a little bit of the story of 7 Time Well Spent? What's the backstory there?
Okay, so basically that was inspired by a true story.
Really?
Growing up, basically.
Okay.
It's like the everyday life of like like a kid going to a new school
Right.
and like trying to blend in with like the new surrounding, and like he doesn't know anyone there. It's like, okay, I gotta survive here somehow, so I gotta figure out how to make friends. But at the same time, when you're entering a new school and growing up, like hitting that age of puberty, like that's when you start having feelings for a certain someone. So there's like a bit of everything in the story, a slice
Right.
of life essentially.
Okay.
So he goes to a new school. He's like, all right, meets this guy named Alex, meets Aldo, and then sees this girl named Mia, and he's like, I wonder if I could like talk to her or something. But how do you do that? So we're trying to tackle like how to deal with your emotions kind of thing. And eventually going down the series is going to tackle mental health awareness.
Right. Oh,
Basically like how do you deal with like if you get shot down, like what do you do?
Yes.
Right.
Like, you're obviously not going to be happy about it, right?
Like a coming of age kind of theme.
Yeah, basically.
Nice.
All within 6 minutes, huh?
Yeah, well, that's
Well, it's a
episode
series.
1.
It's a series.
It's a series.
Ah.
So I'll tell you this. The reason why it's called 7 Time Well Spent is because the story starts in 7th grade.
Right.
The girl that he's after is number 7 on the attendance list. And their class they're in, well, 7E. you know,
Right.
And this is based on a true story.
Inspired by a true story.
Inspired.
Whose
okay.
true story? Yours?
Well, can't say.
I don't want to reveal too much about it.
You just gotta watch it and find out.
So you not only you do have a team, your own team, but obviously you have other partners as well. We've heard you've actually worked internationally as well with other people. How are they involved in this project?
So we have one of our collaborating partners. They're called Yoko Entertainment. It's also a small startup with a similar vision of trying to, try make something smaller. Like, because most people who graduate from college, you're like, I want to work for Pixar, I want to work for Disney.
Right.
But what about making your own thing? Like no one actually like thinks about that much. Because even if they do, they're like, how do we start things off? So I was like, hey, I know you're from college. And it's like, yeah, I know you're from college. And like, you do animation. It's like, want to work together?
Right.
Because we're lacking people and we could use some extra manpower and maybe some exposure, something for me, something for you.
Right. So it's almost like, I like the logic behind it. It's almost like when you graduate, do you want to work for a large corporation? Or do you want to have a sense of ownership for something
That's the
that
stigma
that you do, right?
incorporated, right?
Like, these days, more and more people want to have a sense of ownership, especially in works of art.
And it takes a lot of courage, I feel like, to be able to do that, right?
You gotta have a lot of grit and confidence because like you never really know what you're doing is actually gonna work out. It's almost a gamble, but that's where your business modeling kicks in. You gotta figure out how things work.
On that note, you went to college in the U.S.
Yeah.
And now you've decided to start your career here in Indonesia. Was that a big change? Like, how did you feel about moving back here and starting this back home in Indonesia?
So I think when I graduated college, they gave me something called an optional practical training, which you can take it or leave it kind of thing. And then I didn't, take it, so I ended up going home. And I was like, yeah, Indonesia. I mean, people keep saying, hey, I want to live in a very advanced country.
Right.
And then the thing is, the competition is very tough out there. So whatever you think is tough here, it's like times 10 outside.
Right.
And so basically, like here, a lot of things are still kind of out of date kind of thing, or maybe out of touch. And so like that's where the word opportunity comes in.
Yeah, a lot more
So I think Indonesia is a melting pot, and especially with the growing media culture, it's like, hey, we could basically bank on that and say, we can tell our own stories.
Right.
So like, you have Japan saying, hey, we have anime, and you have the US like, hey, we have Disney, and like Indonesia plus animation equals question mark.
Right. So that leads me to my next question then. Indonesia has not been known for its animation. Like you said, the animation industry here is growing at best. We have animated commercial TV spots, but even that is, in comparison to some other countries around Asia, is perhaps lagging behind. So what's your take as to the industry itself, where we are and where we're headed, and your role in Plupi Animation in regards to its development?
So based on our research and knowledge is that there are a lot of animation studios in Indonesia, not denying that they don't exist, but it's more of like the area of focus that they're working their animation for. And a majority that I see is still focused on advertising. Commercial based.
Right.
And then they make it for either portfolio based, and which is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Sure.
But at the same time, you gotta think bigger picture here.
Right.
So like, why are you making animation? Are you just there to make money, or do you want to send a message? Kind of thing. For us personally, we want to try to get into cinematography. And so maybe like if some people might know Makoto Shinkai's work, like Your Name, Weathering with You, want to get on that level.
Okay.
Yeah,
So what?
It's look like we learned from Japan and now we're fighting the Japan.
Okay. Right.
The animation industry.
Okay. Wow. We call that senjata makan tuan here. Like,
What do you call it?
It's the well, it's like when you're the student and the student
Oh,
starts to
the student,
take over
yeah.
and take on the
Teacher,
teacher. So
yeah.
what is the message then that you are trying to send?
We want to animation in Indonesian to get more knowledge from other people
Okay.
and be a big grow, because in Indonesian there's a lot of people that has a different mindset or something, and the environment or something, they must have a different experience. And if you can put it into animation or cinematographic, Indonesia will be great.
Yeah, I think so too.
I agree.
Now I noticed there's a lot of there's a certain nuance from this particular series that is Japanese inspired as well.
Yeah.
So what's the feedback like from the people that have so far people that are familiar with your animations? That is this out already? The first episode. So what has the feedback been like? And have you had any comparisons? Is that a challenge for you guys to people compare this to Japanese produced animation?
So far, the reception's been really good, actually.
Oh, nice.
All things considered, because we held this one premiere with like we had like a test audience, I guess you could say, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you actually got this done in like 3 months." And then, all things considered too, like all the voice actors, like at least one of them's in Japan, 2 of them are in South Carolina, and 2 of them are in Indonesia, and living in all distant places. And so we have to always set a time. And then when they found out about that, they're like, wow, you guys are crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the most common thing is like, when's episode 2 coming? Because they say, hey, we watched this and like, it's 6 minutes, but it felt like a minute. So what happened?
When
Can't leave us
was the
hanging.
next one?
Yeah, exactly.
So that leads us to our next
Yeah.
question. When is the second episode coming?
So if all things go according to plan, hopefully by either January or February.
Okay.
And then we're gonna publish this on YouTube so anyone can watch this.
Okay.
Right.
So at the moment it's not monetized because our angle right now, we want to expose ourselves first to
Right.
the world. It's like, hey, we exist, we're Indonesia, we can make animation, it's our time to shine.
Yes.
And so we're not gonna say, hey, you're gonna have to pay $5 to watch it now. We're
Right.
not gonna do that yet.
Right.
So, what, all in all though, animation is still a business. Where do you guys see yourselves going forward? Because eventually you will have to turn this into a business because
Yeah.
you want to grow as well. Where do you see yourselves going forward?
So let's say 5 years, maybe 10 years, if it takes that long, hopefully not. If we could penetrate the cinema, market, and hopefully on Makoto Shinkai's level, like Japanese industry, right? So they have movies in theaters. So
We're talking full-length feature here, right?
full-length feature film, maybe like Disney early 2000s. And so like we could maybe rely on, what do you call it, ticket sales revenue.
Right?
And let's say the movie goes down after, playing the theaters, maybe we could sell the rights to, I don't know.
Streaming services
streaming
and things like that.
services.
Okay.
Yeah.
So looking
There-
ahead.
there's a lot
The
of options.
books. Yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely going to lead a larger team, I think, for a full-length feature, or perhaps
Yeah.
more partners.
You'll need a village.
Yeah, it's actually a challenge looking for animators.
So, well, we're not going to end our chat just yet because we've heard that you prepared a little something for See Today involving both digital and analog frame-by-frame methods. So let's start with the analog.
Yes.
What have you got for
Can't
us?
wait to see.
So this is a little experiment I did last night. And
You
so-
did this last
Just
night?
last night.
Just last night.
Unbelievable, okay.
So let me show you first.
Okay.
And so let me know what you think.
What?
Oh.
Okay, all right. This is amazing. So this is actually a very old method of the
Yeah.
kids used to do this. What is it called? Flip
Yeah,
book
it's
method?
a flip book.
It's a flip book
animation.
Okay, perhaps we could get the camera to zoom in first to make sure we got a close shot before you do
Oh,
that.
that was
That was
awesome.
very okay. There we go.
Okay, so basically,
Very entertaining.
Wow.
so this is
at that.
the illusion of motion.
Oh my gosh, and it just like drifts there.
That's awesome. Our logo formed. It started with a little pencil coming
Yeah.
in first. So how many sheets approximately do you have there? Because that's just a Post-it notebook.
I don't know, honestly.
Couple
I
hundred?
didn't
Couple
count.
hundred?
Probably.
Wow.
How long did it take for you to make that one?
About 4 or 5 hours
5 hours.
of just sitting down, coffee.
Unbelievable. There you go. You guys are very meticulous, by the way. I mean, this does
Yeah.
take a lot of patience to be able to do
I
something
could
like
not
that.
sit
That's
still for 5
amazing.
hours.
Okay. We now have a digital version. Let's have a look. There we go. It's up on the screen. Look at that. So, okay, how long did it take for you to create that?
It took around like 5 hours.
Okay, wow.
So 5 hours each.
Unbelievable.
They did
And that was, by
5
the way,
hours on homework
that was only a
yesterday.
few seconds. And you need to appreciate, guys, when you
Wow.
watch something that is animated by hand, how much work it actually takes,
Time,
and that
effort.
it is a work of art.
Coffee.
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah,
It's the coffee.
in 5 hours I really focus on in the front, like,
And it
like
takes a lot of focus as well. It's
Yes.
not just 5 hours sitting down.
By the way, the one with the paper airplane, did you do that on paper first, or is that purely
Nah,
digital?
It's all in digital.
Oh, amazing.
So you can see the difference
So
between.
how many frames was that?
Oh, I forgot I didn't count it.
Well, you can count 24 times. It was probably about 3-4
Yeah, my
seconds.
math
There
wasn't
you
that
go.
great.
Yeah, so 100 frames at least.
Literally, I saw him last night. Like when he was actually working on it, like he actually made a paper airplane to get the angles right.
Yes.
Wow.
And he was staring at his
And
hand
I
the whole
have-
time. And he's like, okay, you gotta draw my hand.
Unbelievable.
thing.
That's amazing.
Goodness,
To see
please
this.
appreciate
To see the risk to make it real, right?
Yeah.
It really, you know what? I've always known how much work it takes for animation, but I don't think everyone's familiar with how
Yeah,
much it really takes.
animation is not only drawing, but
Yes.
you have to understand everything, the human,
Right.
everything.
Yeah, the anatomy,
Right,
the
Yeah.
human
behind
body
it.
behind.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you guys so much.
you
How do we
so
find out
much.
more about Floopy
Yes.
Animation, by the way? Can you share some info with us?
Yeah, we actually have a YouTube channel.
Okay.
We have an Instagram, and we have a LinkedIn page, which surprisingly has the biggest followers.
Oh, really? Nice. So
I was
LinkedIn.
like, all right.
Hey, everyone's on
We
LinkedIn
love
these
LinkedIn.
days. So it's under the same name, Floopy Animation?
Loopy Animation.
So guys,
go.
give the YouTube a follow because these guys have episodes coming up and you guys can watch them all for free. Thank you guys so much for dropping by.
Thank you, guys.
And for that little animation. It was so
That
much
was
fun.
so cool. So much fun.
All
all
right.
right, thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Good luck and we can't wait for episode 2.
Episode 2 is coming up.